Do you know that they were found to be engaged in consumer fraud?
If they were, I'm assuming there are some borrower defense claims pending for them.
Okay. So let me just enlighten you. We've sent you many letters from our delegation. In my district in 2016, the courts found that Minnesota School of Business and Global University engaged in consumer fraud and purposefully deceived their students by misrepresenting the job opportunities.
What you're about to hear is the moment Ilhan Omar fires off a brutal parting shot at Betsy DeVos, dragging her on the way out, while praising Biden's new pick, Miguel Cardona, as the savior of American schools. The entire education, fight charter schools, microaggressions, reopening classrooms, and who really controls our kids' futures explodes in one clip. Omar doesn't hold back, and neither do I.
Thank you, Chairman. Secretary DeVos, thank you so much for being here and giving us the opportunity to have this conversation with you. I am curious if you're familiar with the Minnesota School of Business and Global University.
I'm not familiar with that specific school.
Okay. Do you know that they were found to be engaged in consumer fraud?
If they were, I'm assuming there are some borrower defense claims pending for them.
Okay. So let me just enlighten you. We've sent you many letters from our delegation. In my district in 2016, the courts found that Minnesota School of Business and Global University engaged in consumer fraud and purposefully deceived their students by misrepresenting the job opportunities that would be available to their criminal justice graduates. Madam Secretary, that same year, your department independently reviewed the evidence and came to the same conclusion as the courts. The students were blatantly misled and taken advantage of. 1,336 Minnesota students were systematically misled to believe that they will obtain a degree and credits that were essentially meaningless, losing not only $33.8 million, but their time and countless opportunities. Let's take a minute to just imagine if these weren't just students. Let's imagine that they were corporations. The administration and our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, and probably you, would be up in arms. Corporate executives would not only get their debt forgiven by our government, they would also get compensation for their lost time, lost opportunities, and psychological distress. But Madam Secretary, you don't seem to be up in arms. Nobody seems to be concerned with what's happening with these students. Students who do not have access to corporate attorneys to make their case. Instead, they are struggling to make ends meet as they continue to face accruing interest, negative credit reporting, and the inability to restart their education, all the while hoping the government will do the right thing. I'd like to request unanimous consent to enter into the record 2 affidavits.
Objection.
These are from my constituents Whitney and Cheryl Stellan, whose borrower defense applications have been on hold since January of this year. Between the two of them, they have approximately $78,000 in crippling student debt. To make matters worse, once a borrower defaults, the consequences are severe and results in a snowball effect where a borrower might lose their eligibility to receive additional federal student aid and see devastating effects to their credit. Memo after memo, the Education Department career staff sent you memos that indicate that these students deserve nothing less than full relief. I know that you've said you haven't read these memos yet, but reports have come out, and I would have expected that you would take the time to read them before appearing before us today. I ask for unanimous consent to enter these 3 memos into the record.
Without objection.
I feel like you should be ashamed of the fact that you don't have answers to these memos, that you haven't looked at these memos that you haven't taken the responsibility that you have as a leader to be prepared to give us a response. And I think the public should be ashamed that they have a Secretary of Education that's not putting the interests of students before the interests of the wealthy that are benefiting from defrauding these students. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, if I may respond.
Thank you. The gentlelady's time has expired. Secretary can respond.
Congresswoman, with all due respect, I am very much focused on doing what's right for these students. And the memos to which you're referring preceded me, and they may have been relevant to conversation about how we proceeded with policy, but administrations changed and policies change.
They are precisely relevant to the conversation you were preparing to come to talk to us today. And in your preparation, you should have read those memos. I yield back.
Gentlelady's time has expired, and I recognize myself for 5 minutes. First, a lot has been said about whether or not this applies to for-profits.
Watching Ilhan Omar take a final swing at Betsy DeVos felt like watching years of tension between the left and school choice advocates come to a head. Her goodbye and good riddance tweet wasn't subtle. It was a celebration. She was thrilled to see DeVos go, and even more thrilled to welcome Biden's incoming Education Secretary, Miguel Cardona. And that's where the real battle begins. From my perspective, this wasn't just a farewell message. This was Omar signaling a full political shift in control over America's education system. She framed DeVos as someone who cared more about her bank account than the success of students. Even though DeVos spent years pushing for school choice, letting parents pick what works best for their kids, Omar, of course, hates that idea because it takes power away from the federal government and the teachers' unions she's aligned with. Then comes Miguel Cardona, Biden's pick. Omar praises him as if he's about to radically transform America's schools. But the truth is more complicated. Cardona has his own controversies. He pushed resources on microaggressions and race-focused classroom materials, which drew criticism for injecting politics into education. At the same time, he supported reopening schools during the pandemic, acknowledging that data didn't show widespread in-school COVID transmission. Suddenly, the left had to reconcile their love for lockdowns with Cardona's push to get kids back into classrooms. Even more interesting, Cardona actually agrees with DeVos on at least one thing: charter schools. He said openly that, as a parent, he wants options, and that alone puts him at odds with the far-left groups demanding charter school crackdowns. So while Omar was celebrating, she may not have realized Cardona isn't the union-first, anti-choice figure she wanted. Jeannie Allen from the Center for Education Reform even praised Cardona, saying that if Biden had picked a teachers union leader instead, it would have been an act of war against decades of progress in empowering parents. That says everything. The left thinks Cardona is their guy. Reformers think he might actually keep school choice alive. Omar thinks she won something. But in reality, this appointment may not go the way she imagined. This moment exposes the truth about the education debate. It's not about students, it's about control. Omar wants federal power. DeVos wanted parental power. And Cardona? He may end up stuck right in the middle. That's the real story behind Omar's victory lap. And it's not as clean as she wants you to believe.